Are you considering investing in commercial real estate? This episode is the first in a series that we're doing on the best cities in Texas for commercial real estate investing. One property can change your life. Everybody, welcome to the Real Estate Revenue Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Airy, and in this episode, we're going to talk about an area of Texas that is an excellent investment area. And in fact, this is the beginning of a series of episodes that we're going to talk about different regions of the state of Texas. There are some areas in the state right now that are amazing places to be investing in commercial real estate. And so I think it's a good idea to go over some of those and show you some of the opportunities that are there and talk about that. So the first one that we're going to get into for this episode is the Permian Basin area, West Texas. This is the Midland, Odessa area. This is where I spent 13 years as a commercial real estate broker and in a general contractor building industrial buildings and doing developments. So this is an area I know really well, and it is a very fascinating place. I moved there from Dallas in 2007. And it's the entire area, the economy is based on oil and gas. It is it's what keeps that place alive. It's diversified that economy quite a bit over the years and by design. So what's really fascinating about that area is that the economy there has always been in the past very counter-cyclical to the rest of the country. So when things were booming everywhere else in the United States, in the Midland, Odessa area and the entire Permian Basin, it was usually pretty bad. It was that's when they had a bust. It was a boom and bust cycle that they were going through. And every time the price of oil would go down, naturally, so did the economy there. Now, in the last few years, they've kind of been able to get that leveled out to where it doesn't hurt as much anymore. New technology has helped with the cost of drilling and production of oil and gas, and so they can make a profit at a much lower price. Now, right now, they're at a very good price to maintain a stable economy and to maintain a stable oil and gas business. It's been hovering in the 70s, $70 a barrel, $70 to $80 a barrel. This area, Midland, Odessa area, the metropolitan service area of those two cities, is 370,000 people. That includes a few outlying areas in the counties, and that's a really good population for real estate investing. It's a growing population. There are several little communities around Midland and Odessa that are growing outside of those cities, and those are good opportunities. I've done really well in one little area called Greenwood, which is they call it a suburb of Midland. I don't know if you can call a city that small. I don't know if a city the size of Midland would have suburbs, but it's a kind of an offshoot of the city of Midland. It's outside the city limits. It's in the county. It's an unincorporated community, but it has one of the highest rated school districts anywhere in the state, and that's one of the big draws for that little community. So now the area has major highways. Interstate 20 connects the eastern U.S. to the western U.S., and it runs right through that area. And it's a major artery for transport of all kinds of goods and people, of course. And then we have a highway that connects from the Midland, Odessa area up to Lubbock, which is another pretty decent-sized area of about 500,000 people in their MSA, and then from there it goes on up to Amarillo, which is in the far northern panhandle. So if you're not familiar with Texas geography, that's pretty much that area out there. Also in Midland, there's an international airport. So that can have a big effect on the local economy. And here's the kicker: $153 billion economy. That's what the Permian Basin contributes to the U.S. economy. $153 billion. That's a pretty huge economy for such a small group of people out there. Now, it has been said in the past that in Midland there are more millionaires per capita than any other city in the U.S. I don't know if that still holds true, but I can tell you from experience there are a lot of them out there. And the business climate there is amazing. There's so much opportunity to start businesses. When you have an area like this of approximately, the last number I heard was around 200,000 oil and gas wells, those things all have to be serviced. They have to be drilled. They have to be maintained. They have to have the production has to be taken care of. Everything, every aspect from drilling to production to shutting the wells down and plugging them when they're done. All of that has to be done, and there are thousands of companies out there that do that, and they have a huge economy because of that. 40% of U.S. oil production comes from out there, from the Permian Basin, and 15% of natural gas production. So that is a good chunk of oil and gas production for the U.S. It all comes out of that area. Now, as far as real estate goes, what's interesting about this area is there are hundreds and hundreds of small industrial buildings, and industrial properties are one of my favorite properties. They're actually my favorite property. They are inexpensive to build. They are easy to maintain. And in this area, that particular area, they are easy to lease out. There's a high demand for these properties, and this is what they look like. This is a small metal building. The buildings in the highest demand are 5,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet, mostly in the 5,000 foot range, with 1 to 5 acres of land. So these properties can generate a lot of income, in most of the leases. Almost all of the leases are exclusively triple net leases. Now, if you're not familiar with triple net leases, that means the tenant pays the property taxes, the insurance on the building, all of the maintenance cost, all the utilities. Is responsible for everything. So basically, as a landlord, you don't have you have very little, if any, responsibility for this property. And this is the type of property everybody wants to own: triple net leased property. The leases are long, usually run 5 years to 7 years. Occasionally, you'll get a 3-year lease or a 10-year lease, but most of the time, it's a 5-year or 7-year lease on these properties. And usually, the people in these properties will most likely renew their lease, and it's a very good bet that they're going to want to stay. They don't want to move around unless they've grown out of the building and they need something bigger. And that's usually when somebody wants to move, is they need a bigger space. I've done extremely well with these buildings, both as a broker and as an owner. They're like I said, they're easy to rent, easy to find tenants for. It's very common to own a property like this and pay $300,000 to somewhere between, I don't know, maybe $200,000 to $300,000, all the way up to $1 million and more, depending on the size, and generate a 6-figure income off of these. It's a very common thing to be able to do out there. In this area, it is still possible to get double-digit cap rates. Now, if you're not familiar with cap rates, that's there's a simple formula for that. You take your net operating income that you generate off the property, divide that by the purchase price, and that is your cap rate given in a percentage. And that's assuming that you pay cash for the property. All your expenses are taken out, and that's where you get your net operating income, but you do not include loan payments. So you assume you pay cash, and I can still find properties out there at a 10% cap rate and sometimes even higher. In fact, I know of one right now that's a very good deal for somebody, and it's an industrial property like this. It's actually two together, and the upside in these properties is in the leases. In this one particular deal, the upside is in the lease, and there's a something in there. I don't know that if people aren't seeing it, but it's kind of a hidden gem in this property. So the Permian Basin, because of its growth, also has other property types, of course, that are available. And there has always been a shortage of retail space there. And right now, retail buildings are growing up and they're getting filled when the construction is completed. I actually started a retail development, and COVID hit, and we kind of had to put it on hold. And in the meantime, while we were waiting out all that mess to stop, a developer that we know in town came along and made us an offer on it, and we decided to go ahead and sell it because we made enough profit on the sale of it that we decided to let him take care of developing it. So he built his building. It's almost finished now, and it's already leased up, 100% occupied. He's going to be ready to start phase 2 pretty soon. So it's a high demand for retail space as well. Now, retail is not my favorite thing to do, but it is multi-tenant properties, triple net leases. It can be a really good deal for an investment. Apartments out there are a lot of apartment complexes, a lot of new construction apartments. Again, not my favorite type of investment, but it does very well for a lot of people. I believe the area's probably got enough apartments now, but deals are still being made on some that exist, and you could get in on that. And then there's office space. Office space is kind of funny out there because these industrial buildings that you see in the picture, a lot of these companies have their offices in that because usually on a 5,000 foot building, you'll have about 1,200 square feet of office space, and then the rest of it's going to be shop space. So a lot of those companies will have their offices there, and they don't need to go lease office space. So office buildings are out there. They're available. You can do well with them. Even after the pandemic and people working from home, there's still a demand for office space. And in this area, it's fairly good. So this is a very fun and exciting place to invest in real estate. Now, if you have any interest in this area, we know it very well. We've had 13 years of experience dealing in properties out there of all sizes, from tens of thousands of dollars up to $10 million. And the deals are there, deals of any size that you want to make in that town. So if you have any interest in property out there, I'm going to leave a link in the description below. It'll be a link to where you can contact me, and we'll hook you up with somebody out there. If we can't help you ourselves, we'll hook you up with someone that can help you find the properties that you need. So next time we're going to be talking about an area in North Texas, north of Dallas. It's an area where there's a lot of manufacturing being brought in. So it's going to bring in several thousand jobs. So we'll be talking about that in the next episode. So that's about it for this episode, and I'll see you next time on Real Estate Revenue.